Really, here's my feeling. If you really understand why you're here, you are here to expand and grow as a physical human being, to have experiences and to learn. As a human being, but for your higher self, we'll call it your God self, your source self, because I think that a lot of difference in belief when I used to believe that God was an entity separate from me and judging me. Right. And now God works through me. So there's a very different paradigm there now. And that this energy that's God or this higher power, and I know people who will not use the word God. So right. They use the word source or universe, that higher being or whatever that is. I grew up with God, so I use the term. And understanding that that power moves through every single human being. And at its core is one, but it is individual as it expands out. And then when we understand that as we expand out, we are the furthest extension of that energy. We are the thing that can touch and smell and taste. We use our senses in so many different ways to experience our world. And that's like information.
Mm-hmm.
And
so I have a question.
Yeah.
Are we in control of our lives, or are we just exercising? Do we have the ability to exercise our free will, or are we just the observers of reality and the way things unfold?
That's kind of an interesting question, because I think it's both.
Okay.
Because we are in control. We are in absolute control. Most people don't think they are. To me, it's like being a pinball in a pinball machine. That's most people's life. I'd say 85% of people, they hit the ball, whatever hits, bing, 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 they're going to go for it.
Right.
Most people don't sit down and say, I would like to focus on this, and I'm going to take inspired action and get to that point. And there are some people that do it naturally.
What's inspired action? Inspired
action is action that's taken in I want to say higher vibration or a happy or joyous way. You're not exhausted. You're not angry about doing something. You're not in a really what we call a lower vibration, in a state of, oh God, I've got to get up and go to work again.
Could it be? Would that be like messages that you get, voices in your head and stuff like that?
It could be.
Okay.
Or like the conversation. Exactly. Let's go talk about how we met. A funny way we met. There was this person that I knew, who we started talking about this information, and she said, "Oh, you need to meet my friend Steve." Okay, and that's all it was. And then.
She said the same thing to me.
Yeah. So, and then at some point, because our energy or vibration, like you said, we're running this sort of very similar life of how we're going through things. At some point, we meet, and there we are, and now we're having these conversations, and you're introducing me to your perspective, and I introduce you to my perspective, and it's like, wow, they're different perspectives, but they all meet the same. They're all going the same way. And really, it's about helping other people. And then going back to your question earlier, are we the observers? Because yes, we step back and we observe with our awareness. And we can observe something and say, okay, I took my steps in that direction. I'm observing. Does that feel good? Do I want to continue in this direction? Or do I stop? I think when we stop and observe and feel our way, and that's different. Most people say, well, think. Is it good or is it bad or is it no, feel. Does it feel right? Because most people don't understand that they can create anything. So why not create the stuff that feels good?
So I was at an expo, Mind, Body, Spirit Expo in Raleigh over the weekend. And so right next to our booth was this lady who does aura photography. Now she does a lot more than aura photography. So she did ours, she did mine, she looked at it, and she said, well, she explained all the things that are going on, and she said, by the way, you're way too much in your head. You're thinking too much. And I'm thinking, yeah, I'm thinking too much. I'm thinking about that, of course. How do I get out of my head? And I'm thinking, I'm more thinking. So she said, well, that's kind of the theme for the whole group here, is that everybody's in there, and you mentioned it, everybody's in their head too much. She said, we need to come from our heart much more than our head. And that kind of relates to something I've heard fairly recently, that the heart has 80% more neural tissue than the brain does, and so the heart really is a lot smarter than what we call our brains. And of course, you combine that with all of the cellular memory that's throughout the whole body, and then you think, wait a minute, it's all vibration.
Yep.
Anyway, so what is it? There's not,
Yeah.
that much of a difference in all of it. So
I think HeartMath said that your heart actually sends more messages to your brain than your brain sends to your heart, as far as how everything works. So I
Yeah.
thought that was kind of interesting.
yeah,
I think because we were taught to think, you got to think first, not feel first, And I always say, I guess for the girls it was kind of easy. We could kind of cry, right? But for the guys it was kind of, no, don't cry. You don't cry. And so they stuff it down. And I think that was a tough one as well. And it's for me, it's kind of refreshing to have energy or spiritual conversations with guys, because that's different. Like the women can get all in there and get all grovelly and stuff,
Okay.
But and it's like more and more, I think, having these conversations and watching the guys just kind of, again, peel back the onion and say, hey, this is me. I'm human and I'm vulnerable and it's okay, and I'm stepping up.
Yeah.
And I think it's a very different way of being. And I'm hoping to instill that in my 8-year-old.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, because he's very sensitive, and he's very much, as I'm going through my shifts and my changes, he's 8, so I really kind of got on this journey right when he was born, or actually was coming out of what I call my catalyst for this journey when he was born. So it's been nice to be able to feel how, as a parent, how I would be with my kids. That's been a really nice. I'm just glad I got the information. Let's just say that, because, I think I would have been a different parent if I didn't understand this.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah.
We would all be different parents.
Yeah, you try to force, because I think most parents want their kids to be a certain way and be
Yeah.
a certain thing. So, instead of saying, oh, I want you to fit in this box and be this certain thing and play with these certain toys and be this way, let me just observe my child and see how they are and what their interests are and their creativeness is, and let's nurture that.
Yeah.
Let's take that thing. My son's 8, my daughter's 5, 2 totally different little beings. One is very calm and mild, and the other one's just all over the place. But the energy, it's good energy. It's nice energy, and it's instilling in them that they can choose to be anything that they want.
Right.
So.
Well, I'm just going to take a minute here real quick and just say, because we're about halfway into the show here, and I wanted to say, again, thank you for the sponsors for the show, which is Tesla Energy Lights Wellness, Natural Awakenings Magazine, and Higher Brain Living. And just in that order, Tesla Energy Lights Wellness is TeslaEnergyLightsWellness.com, and Higher Brain Living is HigherBrainLiving.com, and Natural Awakenings is NAAtlanta.com. So back to Anna Bangulian. That was a short break for you. So, well, now you mentioned something just a minute ago about your catalyst. Would you like to expand on that?
I can, actually. I'm very fortunate to have been a co-author in a book called Conversations That Make a Difference, Stories Supporting a Different Vision. And that was really my story of my mother passing away. And that was huge for me. And it was about 2 years of grief and depression.
Wow.
From 2005 to about 2007. So I really got to the point where, the little story basically starts from the moment I found out that she had passed away to I basically walked out my back door on my deck and just said, I looked up and just said, God, either take me off the earth or give me an answer. Well, obviously I'm still here.
Yeah.
So that answer for me was the book, The Astonishing Power of Emotions by Abraham Hicks.
Oh.
And a CD on grief and death.
Oh.
And the explanation in the book, in a nutshell, is much like our lives are much like going to the movies, where we go in and we sit for a moment and we watch this and then we walk out. And to explain that in our life, like, we are so much more than what we see in the mirror. And this is sort of like going to the movie for us, or going on vacation for us. We step into this body, we have a life, we create things and we do things and we experience things, and then we walk out, and we call it death, but it's not really death. It's just, okay, we're done with that. Let's move on to do something. Let's get a new experience, a new body, a fresher body, all that stuff. So, and of course that's my belief. So I don't push that on anybody.
Is that something you continue to think?
It's a thought
It's a
thought that I continue to think. Well, I just don't see how we can be. I was actually raised as a Jehovah's Witness. I always say I was baptized Roman Catholic, raised as a Jehovah's Witness.
That's why I love doing these shows.
I am the punchline to this joke, right? So that's the belief I grew up with, was from dust you came and dust you'll return.
Right.
Done. And I'm like, how can we be who we are here in this world and push ourselves to do so many things, many of us do, and then that's it? That's it? Really? and why? You know, there's got to be an explanation. And to be here to try to get into another realm, or try to get in and be something for somebody else, or be a way,
or to try to stay out of another realm.
Yeah, exactly. I feel blessed that I wasn't raised with a heaven or hell mentality.
Yeah.
Because that would have been that. I've seen my different family members who have that mentality, and to use that on your children and use that in your family, it's like, it doesn't feel good.
Right.
So it's like, why not choose? Do we really? The bottom line, do we really know? There's so many people who've had near-death experiences. There's so many people who can talk to people on the other side. Choose to, because everybody has the power. You set your mind to it. If you're not afraid of it, there it is. So my big thing is, I talk to my mom every day now. In spirit. I call her my traffic goddess. She gets me through traffic, so
Okay.
that's for Ruth. And she, having that conversation with her every day is like she's with me all the time. And that's a very different story than I would say my brother or my sister would tell you. Now, my sister will tell you my mom comes to her in her dreams. And so my sister and I are now having these really great conversations. And my brother, after how many years, is just now opening up to talk about my mom. So it's a really interesting way. I think my dad got it first. My dad started understanding law of attraction and energy and all of this like before I did. But now he and I have these great conversations, and when we get on the phone, it's like I know him more as this person and not just my dad. So that's been a really cool expansion for us. And at the same time, yes, I miss my mom in the physical, sure I do. And at the same time, I feel like I have this connection with her that will never ever go away. That's something more. Even now, the energy that comes through as my mom is so much more. She doesn't have a southern accent anymore either.
Oh, really?
So it's
Maybe
interesting.
she has a deeper, better understanding of all that is.
She's omnipotent, right? She's everywhere. So yes, and that's just it. Every single one of us have that. We've chosen to come in. This is, again, my thought, my belief, that we've chosen to come here, and we block ourselves off from any other lives. Otherwise, that would be a distraction. Like, how are we to experience even something as simple as eating a delicious meal or drinking a delicious glass of our favorite beverage if we've done it a million times before?
Right.
It's like, been there, done that. Why do I want to do it again? But you're doing this now as Steve. I'm doing this now as Anna. That's a whole different perspective. Totally different perspective.
Yeah.
So my experiences of having my meals and being a parent, being a partner, being a daughter, being all these things are new to this person.
So if we look at the bigger perspective, I understand, now this is something that was told to me and I happen to believe it, is that we have all done everything. Mm-hmm. We've all had every persona imaginable. Mm-hmm. And imagine if you're an infinite being and you're vibrational and you think of stuff and it shows up, and you've kind of thought of every experience and every opportunity that you could think of. After a while, what do you do?
Exactly.
I mean,
what do you do?
Well, I did that, 500 million thousand times or whatever the number is.
Mm-hmm.
Now what do I do? So well, maybe if I could just forget all this stuff and start, again. And I believe, just my belief, that's what you're saying. We come in here, we've forgotten it, we want to do it. So now, when it really comes down to it, all we really have, and the only thing we really have to offer society, if you will, and from this perspective, is one thing, and that's our story. That's it.
Yep.
Our own personal story. What do you think about that?
No, I think it's true.
Okay.
I think when we tell our stories and share, when I tell people that I did 2 years of grief and depression after my mom passed away, there were people who resonated with that pain and that anguish. And there was a time when I couldn't sit here and say that without busting out in tears. I've done work on just the feelings of loss. Okay, so to me, that's a big deal. And when you get someone who can resonate with that and says, because of your story, I feel like I can move forward, or I feel like I can go on, or I feel like, so it's really nice to have that experience and have that, be able to help someone else, because within our stories, we uplift each other.
Right.
And we can change, I guess in a way, it's like, I didn't set out to change other people's lives. I set out to change my life. But within my story and the things that I chose to play around with, I feel like we've changed other people's lives. And we've met other people who are doing the same.
Help me with this perspective. If we are all one, which is the second law of the universe, the all is one and the one is all. And we are helping ourselves. Are we not helping everybody?
Yes.
Now, can we actually affect anyone else? Can we actually change anyone else?
No, not unless no, we personally can't.
No.
They have to choose it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then the best that we can do is influence them.
Right.
Maybe.
Yeah. And I don't even want to use the word influence, because in advertising, that's a huge word. Because it has to be choice.
Yeah.
But we're here, I always say, we have to do it alone, but we can't do it alone. Because if we were the only human here on this planet, we wouldn't know what to do with ourselves.
Right.
But through example of what other people are doing and aspiring to do and to be, or not, because you've got all different types of people out there. If you see people stealing from other people, now, no judgment, no right, no wrong, because that person, that's why I say this is huge, because that person chose to come in and experience that life. Does that make sense? And some people say, I didn't choose this for myself. Well, you kind of did.
Right.
You did. And you can choose to move away from that or choose to be something else. I think there's a book called Radical Forgiveness. I don't know if you've read it, but it's an interesting book, and how at some point we're all the victim, and at some point we are all the perpetrator. Okay. And so we come in as those experiences. And I've done some work, I did some work with Dr. Lois Grant, and we had this whole series of about lifetimes and how we come in, because we come in at certain times as an infant and a juvenile, and so we have different degrees of our perspective. So even though we might have done this millions of times, we might have only done it so many times as an infant coming in. What does that look like? What kind of personalities? And it's kind of interesting, because when I was really into it, you could kind of have a conversation with someone and kind of pick out their personality, and how they were being, and just all types of beings in there. So it's almost like it's exciting to know that we're all not the same.
Right.
That we're all unique. That's the coolest part in the whole wide world. No two human beings, I don't care if you're identical twins, you're not exactly alike. And everything is unique to you. Yeah. Even if I said, hey, I love that color orange, and as an artist, I know it to be a certain, they call it a Pantone number, blah, and I can say, hey, Steve, it's this, and you can agree with me, yes, but I don't know if the orange that I'm seeing on your shirt is the orange that you're seeing.
It's probably not.
It's not.
Yeah.
Yes, but we chose to agree that whatever I'm seeing and whatever you're seeing is the color orange. So there's so many things in this world that people are not aware of. And my feeling is now that so many people are waking up to sort of a disruption of their life. I know that was mine, disruption of my life, whether it be through my mom's passing. But through my mom's passing, I realized that the business that I had was consuming my time, consuming me, and I wasn't really passionate about it. It's like I had to choose, what am I going to do? I mean, it was 2 businesses, and it was employees, and it was business partners, and it was all this. So in the book I stated, you know, I downsized my business and upsized my awareness. So there's a whole different way that people go about doing things. And a lot of people probably still think I'm really crazy for letting stuff go, you know, letting clients go, choosing to go into a smaller space, choosing to let go of physical things that didn't serve me anymore.
You know, this is interesting because you're talking about less, really.
Yeah.
And
simplifying.
Yeah, and I've had conversations recently that kind of parallel that. I guess that's a reflection. You know, because it's all we have are just reflections of ourselves. So you're talking about less is more, and I'm looking at, wow, it's really about the subtle energies, because we're in a kind of a gross energy point of view. The more physical, the heavier the vibration. So the more powerful vibrational creative energies are really, really subtle. So if we back up a little bit into the subtle energies, then less is more. So maybe less stuff is more energy for creation.
I think it's perspective on that.
Yeah.
It can be, yeah. Lighten the load. You know, what's that saying? He ain't heavy, he's my brother.
Right.
You know, what does that mean? It's feel about heavy. What does heavy feel like? Heavy feels like grief. Heavy feels like sadness. Heavy feels like, oh, I got so much on me.
Heavy.
Light just feels joy and happy. And it could physically mean